I stood outside the studio clutching my 5-year-old son Rico's hand so tightly I worried I might hurt him. My heart pounded against my rib cage like it was trying to escape. And honestly, I wanted to escape too. Being an omega meant crowds made me anxious. It was biological, unavoidable. A constant reminder of what I was. But today the anxiety was suffocating. Through the glass doors I could see him, Jalen Wolf. The name alone made my bonding gland ache at the base of my neck. CEO of Wolf Enterprises. Forbes cover star. The most powerful unmarked alpha in the entire state. Maybe the country, even from this distance. His presence was overwhelming. Just looking at him made that sensitive spot behind my ear throb with recognition, waiting for a mark that would never come. Destiny was a sick joke in my case. Dad, please. I want to go inside. Rico whined, scrunching his little nose in that way that always melted my resolve. It's so boring out here. Just a bit longer, sweetheart. I whispered, running my fingers through his soft curls. Dad needs to deliver some equipment and we'll get ice cream. I promise. I was here as an assistant photographer, Marcus's errand boy. Really. Carrying gear, adjusting lights, setting up backgrounds. My job was to be invisible. That was the plan. Simple, safe. Inside the studio, lights blazed like a theater production. I watched Jalen Wolf position center stage, his posture impeccable in a tailored charcoal suit that fit like it had been sewn directly onto his body. Those gray eyes were sharp with intelligence, and his commanding presence was almost tangible even through the glass. Every movement deliberate, every word precise. This was an alpha who never lost control, but I had lost control. 3 years ago, for one night, the memory ambushed me without warning. The charity gala at Carlton Hotel. I'd been working catering staff, desperate for extra money. Then my heat cycle had triggered unexpectedly, even though I'd been religious about my suppressants. Panic, pain, desperate need. Some alpha had taken me to a private room. I never saw his face clearly, only remembered his intoxicating scent. Cedar wood and rain-soaked earth. Overwhelming. Addicted. By morning I was alone, pregnant, and completely clueless about who he was. Mr. Santos, equipment over here. Marcus called sharply, already frustrated. Yes. Sorry, coming. I responded quickly, settling Rico into a quiet corner. I pulled his coloring book and crayons from my worn backpack. Baby, sit here quietly and color your dinosaurs. Dad will be right back. Promise. And look, I whispered conspiratorially, if you behave really well, you'll get double scoop ice cream. Rico's eyes lit up. Double? Chocolate and strawberry? Absolutely. I smiled despite my nerves. But quietly, okay? Okay, Dad. Rico nodded seriously, already absorbed in his crayons. I grabbed the equipment and slipped into the studio. The interview had already started. Reporter Sienna Hartley, the city's most famous broadcast journalist, sat in an immaculate red suit firing questions with a professional smile. Mr. Wolf, Wolf Enterprises saw unprecedented growth last quarter. Can you attribute this success to any particular strategy? Jalen's voice was deep and smooth, dripping with confidence. Strategic acquisitions and calculated risks. Miss Hartley, success is rarely accidental. It results from deliberate planning and flawless execution. I worked in the shadows, carefully adjusting a reflector, when suddenly the studio erupted in commotion. Dad, my blood turned to ice. No. Please no. I whipped around and watched in horror as Rico, my precious, utterly unpredictable son, sprinted toward the stage at full speed, waving his coloring book dramatically like a victory flag. Rico, stop, I shouted desperately, dropping the equipment, but my son, with the fearless confidence of a 5-year-old who knew no boundaries, jumped directly into Jalen Wolf's lap. The entire studio froze. Cameras stuttered. Sienna's professional smile slipped. The sound technician's headphones nearly fell off. And I stood rooted in place, a living statue of absolute mortification and terror. But what happened next was the most unexpected thing of all. Jalen Wolf didn't push Rico away. He looked shocked, his eyes widened, his breath visibly caught, but he instinctively raised his strong arms and steadied Rico, protecting him from falling. You look like a dad, Rico announced with absolute innocence, his tiny fingers curiously touching Jalen's expensive suit lapel. Are you a dad? Dead silence. You could literally hear a pin drop. Jalen Wolfe, the man who never blinked during billion-dollar deals, who made grown men nervous in corporate boardrooms, was completely speechless. He started, then stopped, clearly scrambling for words. I finally forced my legs to move and stumbled toward the stage in pure panic mode. I am so incredibly sorry, Mr. Wolfe. Rico, get down now. Oh God, I'm so sorry. But when I got close enough to Jalen, something utterly strange and terrifying happened. His scent hit me. Cedar wood. Rain-soaked earth. Precisely that intoxicating combination I'd been desperately trying to forget for 3 years. No. This couldn't be a coincidence. This couldn't be happening. My entire body reacted. My skin tingled. My bonding gland throbbed painfully and I felt almost dizzy from overwhelming recognition. Jalen's gaze snapped to me. For 1 second, just 1 second, I saw something in those gray eyes. Recognition, confusion, something was definitely there. His nostrils subtly flared as alpha instinct activated. He was scenting me, vanilla and night-blooming jasmine. Distinctly omega, distinctly mine. Rico, please, I could barely whisper, desperately lifting my son from Jalen's lap. My hands were shaking. I'm extremely sorry for this disruption, Mr. Wolfe. This was completely unacceptable. Wait. Jalen's voice was so commanding, so alpha authoritative, that I automatically froze. He stood slowly, his full height intimidating. 6'3" easily, broad shoulders, a presence that dominated the entire room. But his eyes focused on Rico intensely, almost desperately studying him. I could see the wheels turning in his mind. He was observing every detail. Rico's gray eyes that were eerily similar to Jalen's. That sharp jawline currently hidden beneath baby fat. The specific way Rico scrunched his nose. This is your son? Jalen asked, his voice carefully controlled, but the underlying tension unmistakable. Yes. I confirmed weakly. How old is he? Each word was measured, deliberate. 5 years old. He just turned 5 last month. I literally watched realization dawn on Jalen's face, calculations running, timelines matching, puzzle pieces clicking into place. We need to talk, Jalen said, his voice dangerously low. Privately. Now, I really need to go. I tried to protest pathetically. Jalen grabbed my wrist. Gently but unmistakably firm. His touch felt like an electric shock, making my bonding gland practically scream with recognition. Please, Jalen said, and this was probably the first time I'd ever heard Jalen Wolfe use that word. Just 5 minutes. I need answers. Every single person in the studio stared at us three. The powerful alpha CEO, a clearly flustered omega, and a confused child who unmistakably resembled them both. Marcus's face showed pure shock. Sienna's professional composure had completely shattered. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every excruciating second. I knew in that exact moment, with crystal clear certainty, that my carefully constructed life, my 3 years of secrecy, my protective walls, everything was about to irreversibly crumble. Fine, I finally whispered, defeated. 5 minutes. As Jalen carefully guided us toward the studio's back office, his hand still on my wrist. As if afraid I'd vanish, I felt my world violently shifting, tilting off its axis. Rico clung to my neck, confused but trusting. Dad, what happened? Who's that tall man? Someone important, I whispered hoarsely. And that was the understatement of the century. Jalen led us into a private office that was clearly a temporary setup for interviews. Basic desk, uncomfortable chairs, and tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Rico settled on my hip, confused but still curious. His tiny fingers anxiously played with my shirt collar, his nervous habit that always gave away his feelings. Jalen carefully locked the door, ensuring privacy, then turned to face me completely. For the first time, properly, his gray eyes were intense, analytical, searching for answers that were already forming in his mind. Your full name? He asked formally, though his voice was slightly strained. Devon Santos. And Rico's complete name? Rico Devon Santos. I had deliberately left Jalen's surname off the birth certificate. It had seemed safer, simpler. Jalen visibly flinched when he realized his name was missing. The father section on the birth certificate. It's blank, I admitted quietly, guilt creeping in despite my justifications. Devin. The way he said my name, soft but pained, made my chest tighten. Let me ask directly. 3 years ago, the charity gala at Carlton Hotel. Were you there? My breath completely stopped. So it was true. This was him. Yes. I whispered, barely audible. Jalen's hands clenched into fists, then deliberately unclenched, clearly controlling intense emotions. I went looking for you the next morning. 6 a.m. Your room was empty. The staff refused to tell me anything. Privacy policies. They had no information about you beyond a first name I hadn't heard. Clearly, I spent weeks trying to find you. This information stunned me. You searched for me? Obviously. Jalen's voice rose. Then he immediately controlled himself when Rico flinched. Sorry, Rico. The man is just surprised. Rico looked suspiciously at Jalen, then at me. Dad, why does he look sad? It's complicated, baby, I said gently, kissing his forehead. Grown-up boring stuff. Jalen took a moment, regaining his composure. Then he carefully approached and crouched to Rico's eye level. Respectful, non-threatening. Rico, he said gently, when is your birthday? April 15th, Rico announced proudly. I'm 5. And next year I'll be 6. I watched Jalen mentally calculate. The Carlton Gala had been July 12th. Exactly 9 months before. Perfect timeline. And you like drawing? Jalen continued the conversation, but I could see his mind racing. Yes, dinosaurs especially. T-Rex is my favorite because he's the strongest. Rico explained enthusiastically. Strong, Jalen repeated softly, looking at Rico with emotion. Absolutely. Then he stood and looked at me. Devin, can Rico be occupied for a bit? Maybe with drawing? I need to speak with you privately. I hesitated, but Rico was already getting antsy. I pulled his coloring book and crayons from my bag. Baby, sit here and color. Dad and this man need to have an important talk. Boring grown-up stuff? Rico asked in a resigned tone. Exactly. When Rico was settled, Jalen and I moved to the opposite corner of the office, keeping our voices low. He's my son, Jalen said directly. A statement, not a question. I don't need a DNA test to know, but I'll order one for official records. But Devin, he's obviously mine. His eyes, his facial structure, even his mannerisms, they're from me. I know, I admitted quietly. Then why? Jalen's voice cracked slightly. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep me away from my son for 5 years? 5 years, because I was terrified. I hissed, trying to keep my voice down. Jalen, think from my perspective. I was a nobody, Omega, barely surviving on catering jobs. I accidentally got pregnant during heat by a stranger whose name I didn't even know clearly. When I finally researched and realized who you were, billionaire CEO, most eligible alpha, completely different world. I was scared out of my mind. Scared of what? Jalen demanded. Everything. Tears came to my eyes despite trying to stay strong. That you'd think I deliberately trapped you. That you'd take Rico from me, because you have unlimited resources. That you'd pay me off and tell me to disappear. That Rico would be an inconvenient mistake to you. Jalen's expression absolutely shattered. You seriously thought all that? That I'd consider my own child a mistake? I didn't know what you'd think. I defended myself. We were strangers. One heat-induced night. That's not exactly a situation where you get confident reassurance. So you unilaterally decided, Jalen said bitterly, that I wasn't worthy of being a father, that Rico didn't deserve to know me, that I didn't deserve the first smile, first thirsts, first words, first day of school. Nothing. Guilt crushed me. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was just surviving. Jalen buried his face in his hands, clearly dealing with overwhelming emotions. When he finally looked up, tears were in his eyes. I wanted children, he confessed hoarsely. Always. A family. But being an alpha and CEO, finding the right Omega, someone compatible, someone trustworthy, it seemed impossible. And then that night, I knew something was special. Your scent, our compatibility, everything felt right. And when you disappeared, He trailed off. Overwhelmed. I felt it too, I whispered. That connection. That's why no other alpha ever felt right. I couldn't move on. Jalen's eyes snapped up, hopeful. You haven't, no one else? I tried. Failed miserably. Nobody could match you. The tension shifted slightly, less angry, more something else. Something intense and complicated. Dad, look, I made a T-Rex. Rico suddenly announced, proudly holding up his drawing. We both broke from that intimate moment. Jalen quickly regained his composure and walked to Rico. Wow, this is amazing, Rico. You drew the teeth in such detail. Jalen was genuinely impressed, 'cause T-Rex had really strong teeth. He could eat anything. Rico explained excitedly. Exactly right, Jalen smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen on his face. That smile completely transformed his stern features. Then Jalen looked at me. Devin, we can't resolve everything here. But please, give me a chance. Dinner. With you and Rico. A neutral place. We can calmly discuss arrangements. Rico's future. And maybe explore our connection too. Dinner? I repeated nervously. Yes. Rico deserves to know both his parents. And you deserve to be properly courted, not just have an accidental heat encounter. Jalen's voice was sincere. I'm not forcing you. I'm asking you. Please. Rico looked at us curiously. Dinner? Can we have pizza? Jalen laughed, a genuine warm sound. Pizza, ice cream, whatever you want, buddy. I looked at Rico, then at Jalen. Maybe this was necessary. Rico deserved to know the truth. Deserved to bond with his biological father. One dinner, I agreed carefully, but slowly, no sudden changes. Rico's stability is my priority. Absolutely, Jalen immediately agreed. Completely at your pace. When we left the office, the studio was completely empty. Clearly everyone had discreetly exited to give the situation privacy. But in the hallway, Marcus was waiting, concern and curiosity on his face. Devin, is everything okay? He asked carefully. Yes, I said, though my voice was unconvincing. Just a complicated situation. Marcus looked warily at Jalen, then at me. If you need anything, I'm fine. Thank you, Marcus. Jalen pulled out his car keys. Let me drive you and Rico home. And tomorrow, I'll call about dinner plans. If that's okay? I hesitated, then nodded. The car ride was tense. Rico sat happily in the back seat, oblivious to the adult tension. Jalen's expensive sedan was spotless and comfortable, the complete opposite of my usual bus rides. When we arrived at my modest apartment building, Jalen carefully observed it. Old, slightly shabby, but safe enough. This is your building? Yes. It's affordable and walking distance to school. Jalen wanted to say something. I could see it on his face, but he controlled himself. Okay. I'll call tomorrow? Yes. Rico waved sleepily. Bye, tall man. Goodbye, Rico, Jalen said softly, emotion in his voice. As I took Rico upstairs, I glanced back once. Jalen was still sitting in his car, staring at the building, clearly conflicted and emotional. My life was definitely about to change. Irreversibly. Completely. And I was terrified I wasn't ready. The next morning at exactly 7:15, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? I answered cautiously. Devin. Good morning. This is Jalen. His voice was professional but had a warm undertone. I hope I didn't wake you. No, I was already up. Rico's getting ready for school, I said, balancing the phone between my shoulder and ear while tying Rico's shoelaces. Perfect. I was thinking, could I drop Rico at school with you today? Then we could have breakfast and properly discuss our plans. Jalen, please. Devin, let me be involved. Gradually. Let me prove I'm serious about this. Rico looked up curiously. Who is it, Dad? I muted the phone. It's Jalen. He wants to take you to school. Is that okay with you? Rico's eyes lit up with excitement. The tall man? Yes. His car was cool. I unmuted. Okay. When can you be here? I'm already outside your building. I brought fresh croissants and coffee too. I went to the window and looked down. Sure enough, Jalen's sleek black car was parked below. He was obviously prepared. A bit controlling, aren't you? I commented dryly. Eager, Jalen corrected. There's a big difference. 20 minutes later, Jalen was in my small apartment, surprisingly comfortable despite the obvious wealth disparity. He helped Rico pack his backpack, conversing naturally. "So what's special at school today?" Jalen asked. "Art class. We're making dinosaurs with clay," Rico explained enthusiastically. "Incredible. Which dinosaur will you make?" "T-Rex, obviously," Jalen laughed. Genuine and unguarded. Seeing this side of him relaxed and playful was strangely endearing. At the school drop-off, other parents definitely noticed Jalen. Whispers started immediately. "Isn't that Jalen Wolf? What's he doing with Devin? Are they together?" Jalen deliberately placed his hand on my lower back, a possessive gesture that was clearly signaling something. I looked at him in surprise. "Let them talk," he said quietly. "I won't hide my son." Rico happily waved to teacher Lydia and headed into class. Lydia gave us a friendly but curious smile. At the cafe, upscale but cozy, Jalen started a serious discussion. "I want a formal custody arrangement," he said directly. "Joint legal custody. You'll remain the primary physical custodian. Rico stays with you. But I want involvement in decisions, weekends, holidays. What if I disagree with something? Then we'll discuss it until we find a compromise. I don't want to be a dictator, Devin. I want to be a partner." "A partner," I repeated slowly. "Yes. Co-parents. And maybe," he hesitated, "maybe something more. Eventually, if you're comfortable." My heart rate increased. "Jalen, I know this is fast. But Devin, that night, that connection, it was real. Biological compatibility exists between alphas and omegas. Rare, but real. And we're clearly compatible." "One night doesn't prove compatibility." "Then let me prove it," Jalen challenged. "Properly. Through dates, conversations, getting to know each other. I want to court you, Devin. Traditionally, respectfully." I felt overwhelmed. I need time to think about this." "Take all the time you need," Jalen immediately assured me. "But in the meantime, can we at least set up arrangements for Rico?" The next few weeks were surprisingly smooth. Jalen gradually integrated into Rico's life. School pickups, park visits, weekend outings. Rico thrived with the attention, and I was slowly learning to trust. One Saturday, Jalen invited us both to the aquarium. Rico was in heaven, bouncing excitedly as he watched sharks and colorful fish. "Dad, Jalen, look at that huge turtle," Rico squealed. Jalen naturally took my hand as we navigated through the crowded exhibit. Protective, guiding. It felt natural. "Did you ever imagine," Jalen asked softly, "that we'd be here as a family?" "No," I admitted honestly. "But it's nice." "Just nice?" he teased. "Very nice," I corrected with a small smile. Then something unexpected happened. When we were in a quieter exhibit with Rico distracted, Jalen suddenly cupped my face. "I want to kiss you," he whispered. "But only if you want me to." My breath caught. "Here? Now?" "Yes. Because I can't hold back anymore. Because you're beautiful. Because I haven't been able to think about anyone else for 3 years." And I couldn't resist. I nodded slightly. He kissed me gently, tenderly, sweet and respectful, but with underlying passion. When we pulled apart, I was breathless. "Wow," I said stupidly. Jalen smiled, genuine and happy. "Yeah. Wow. Dad, Jalen, there are penguins. Let's go." Rico's voice broke the moment. We both laughed, but that kiss changed everything. The possibility became real, and I was realizing, maybe I wanted to explore that possibility. Over the following days, Jalen continued to show up consistently. He attended Rico's clay dinosaur presentation at school, sitting beside me in the tiny classroom chairs that were comically small for his frame. He took us to the park on Wednesday afternoons, pushing Rico on the swings while I watched from a bench. He called every evening just to hear about our day. "What did Rico learn today?" he'd ask, genuinely interested in every detail. "He learned about the water cycle," I'd tell him. "He's convinced he can make it rain by boiling water in the kitchen." Jalen's laugh through the phone became my favorite sound. But it wasn't just about Rico anymore. Jalen started asking about me too. "How was your photography session?" he'd inquire. "Did that difficult client finally approve the edits?" "You remembered that?" I'd ask, surprised. "I remember everything you tell me, Devin." One evening, he showed up at my apartment unannounced with Thai food. My favorite, which I'd mentioned once in passing 2 weeks ago. You looked exhausted when I picked up Rico today, he explained, setting containers on my small kitchen table. I thought you could use a break from cooking. You didn't have to do this, I protested weakly, though the smell was making my mouth water. I wanted to, he said simply. Let me take care of you sometimes. After Rico went to bed that night, Jalen and I sat on my worn couch sharing spring rolls and conversation. Can I ask you something personal? Jalen said carefully. Depends on the question. Why photography? What drew you to it? I considered the question. Nobody had asked me that in years. It's about capturing moments that matter, preserving them. I guess. I wanted to hold on to beautiful things in a world that felt constantly temporal. Jalen looked at me with such intensity that I had to glance away. You see beauty where others see ordinary. That's a gift. You're being too generous. I'm being honest. He moved slightly closer. Devin, I need to tell you something. And I need you to really hear me. My heart started racing. Okay, I'm falling for you. Not just because you're Rico's father. Not just because of biological compatibility. But because of who you are. Your strength, your dedication, your kindness despite everything you've been through. You're extraordinary, and I want the chance to show you that every single day. Tears pricked my eyes. Jalen, you don't have to say anything back, he assured me quickly. I just needed you to know. To understand that my intentions are real. That this isn't temporary or convenient. I'm all in whenever you're ready. I took a shaky breath. I'm scared. Of trusting this. Of believing it's real. I know. And I'll spend however long it takes proving it to you. He gently took my hand. We'll go at your pace. Always. Looking into his eyes. Those gray eyes Rico had inherited. I saw nothing but sincerity. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to start believing in possibilities again. Okay? I whispered. Let's try this. Really try. Jalen's smile could have lit up the entire city. 3 weeks had passed since the aquarium kiss. And Jalen and I were carefully building something real. Proper dates where we talked for hours. Meaningful conversations that went beyond surface level. Shared moments that felt increasingly natural. Like we'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. But today, something was desperately wrong. From the moment I woke up, I felt strange. A restlessness I couldn't shake. Like my skin was too tight for my body. My skin was oversensitive to every texture, even my soft cotton sheets felt abrasive. My temperature felt slightly elevated, and there was a familiar yet terrifying awareness creeping through my body, settling deep in my bones. My heat cycle was approaching, and approaching fast. No, 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 I muttered in panic, frantically checking my suppressant bottle with shaking hands. I'd taken yesterday's dose right on schedule. I'd been so careful, so consistent. This shouldn't be happening. This couldn't be happening. But biology never cared about my plans or my careful schedules. Jalen arrived in the afternoon to pick up Rico from a park playdate with his friend from school. The moment I opened the door, he immediately noticed something was off. His alpha senses were always sharp where I was. Devin, are you all right? The concern in his voice was instant and genuine. You look flushed. I'm fine, I started to say, but then a powerful wave of heat crashed over me without warning. I staggered backward, grabbing the doorframe for support as my knees threatened to buckle. Jalen immediately steadied me, his strong hands gripping my arms, and when his skin made contact with mine, the sensation was absolutely overwhelming. Electric. Intense. Too much and not enough simultaneously. I gasped at my entire body reacting violently to his proximity. His eyes widened with immediate recognition and understanding. Your heat. It's starting now. No, I take suppressants religiously. This can't be happening. My voice was rising with panic. Suppressants fail, especially when you're in frequent contact with a compatible alpha. His voice was tight with worry and something else. Concern for my safety. Devin, you need a heat specialist immediately. This isn't safe to handle alone. Rico, I said desperately, my mind already fragmenting as another wave hit. I can't leave him alone. I can't just abandon. I'll handle everything. Jalen interrupted firmly, already pulling out his phone with his free hand while the other kept me steady. But you need proper help right now. Come on. Let's get you mine before you collapse. He guided me to the couch, his touch both torture and relief. Within 30 minutes, which felt like an eternity, A professional nanny named Blair arrived. She was middle-aged, kind-faced and experienced. She quickly distracted Rico with promises of ice cream and his favorite cartoons, whisking him away to his room before he could see me in this vulnerable state. The heat specialist, Dr. Nora Chen, arrived shortly after. She was efficient and professional, examining me quickly while asking pointed questions. She confirmed what Jalen had already suspected: a full heat cycle specifically triggered by our increasing biological compatibility and frequent proximity. You're forming a partial bond, the doctor explained clinically, though not unkindly. Your bodies are recognizing each other as potential mates. During heat, separating you two would cause extreme physical pain for the omega, possibly dangerous levels of distress. So what should I do? Jalen demanded, his alpha protectiveness in full force. He was pacing now, clearly agitated. Stay with him. Help him through the cycle safely. But be warned, marking during heat creates a permanent, irreversible bond. The biology is too powerful to resist once initiated. Decide very carefully whether that's what you both want. After the doctor left detailed instructions and emergency contact information, I was already trembling violently, overwhelmed by pain and desperate, clawing need that I'd never experienced this intensely before. Jalen, I called weakly from the bedroom where he'd helped me. He was instantly at my side, kneeling beside the bed. I'm here. Tell me what you need. I just need you near me. Please don't leave. My voice cracked with vulnerability. His control visibly wavered. I could see the struggle in his face. Devin, consent is extremely complicated during heat. Your judgment is compromised. I'm giving you consent, I insisted, my voice stronger despite my shaking body. Fully, clearly, with complete awareness of what I'm asking. I trust you more than I've ever trusted anyone. He exhaled shakily, running a hand through his hair. All right. But we do this properly, safely. I won't take advantage of your condition. The heat was intense, more powerful than anything I'd experienced in my life. My previous heats had been manageable with suppressants and isolation. This was different. Primal, consuming, overwhelming. But Jalen was absolutely audibly through all of it. He was gentle when I needed softness, providing cool cloths for my fevered skin. He was strong when I needed support, holding me through the worst waves of pain. He was attentive to every signal my body gave, learning what helped and what didn't. He made sure I stayed hydrated, kept me comfortable with adjusted temperatures and soft blankets, talked me through the worst moments with his steady, calm voice. You're doing so well, he murmured repeatedly, brushing sweat-dampened hair from my forehead with infinite tenderness. I've got you. You're completely safe with me. Every touch brought profound relief. Every kiss provided genuine comfort. He never took advantage of my vulnerable state, never pushed beyond what I actually needed for the heat, never made me feel like anything but absolutely cherished and protected. When morning finally came and the heat broke like a fever, I was wrapped securely in his arms. Sunlight streamed through the curtains. I touched my neck gingerly, tender and sensitive but completely unmarked. You didn't mark me, I observed with surprise and something that might have been disappointment. That should be your choice, he said softly, his thumb tracing gentle, soothing circles on my shoulder. Made with a completely clear mind, not influenced by heat biology or overwhelming physical need. Emotion welled up powerfully in my chest, threatening to overflow. Thank you for respecting that boundary when it would have been so easy not to. Always, he promised, his gray eyes utterly serious and filled with tenderness. Anything for you. Everything for you. In that quiet moment, lying in his arms with soft morning light filtering through the curtains and the sound of birds outside, I realized something fundamental had shifted between us. This wasn't just physical attraction or biological compatibility anymore. This was something far deeper, far more profound. Jalen, I'm in love with you, I confessed quietly, the words feeling both terrifying and necessary. His entire face transformed with joy. You actually mean that? Completely. Absolutely. Terrifyingly so. Terrifyingly? He smiled, pulling me impossibly closer. Because it means I'm trusting you with absolutely everything. With Rico, with myself, with our entire future together. I'm deeply honored by that trust, he said seriously. Then added with warmth flooding his voice. And I'm completely, hopelessly in love with you too. Have been for weeks, maybe since that very first conversation in the office when you were so fierce protecting Rico. We kissed then, soft and sweet and full of unspoken promises. Not driven by heat or biology, but by genuine freely given emotion, our future suddenly felt not just possible but gloriously inevitable. The next month passed in a wonderful blur of happiness, planning and building our life together. Jalen had found the perfect 3-bedroom apartment in a safe, family-friendly neighborhood. It was close to Rico's school, walking distance actually, with parks nearby and good lighting. He'd arranged it so the rent was affordable without making me feel like I was accepting charity, which I appreciated more than I could express. Moving day arrived with palpable excitement thrumming through all of us. "Dad, come look at my room right now," Rico shouted enthusiastically, running through the dinosaur-decorated space that Jalen had carefully designed with his input. There were dinosaur decals on the walls, a fossil print bedspread, and even a small bookshelf shaped like a T-Rex. Jalen wrapped his arms around me from behind as we stood in the doorway watching Rico explore. "Are you genuinely happy here?" "More than I can possibly express," I admitted, leaning back against his solid chest, feeling his heart beat against my shoulder blades. "Good. Because I need to ask you something important." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. My heart stopped completely. "Jalen, it's a promise ring," he explained quickly, opening the box to reveal a simple but beautiful platinum band that caught the light. "For when you're ready for the official bond. No pressure, no timeline, no expectations. Just a symbol of my absolute commitment to you and Rico." I took the box with trembling hands. The ring had an inscription inside that made my throat tight. "Our family, our future." "I want to wear it now," I decided, my voice thick with overwhelming emotion. His smile was absolutely blinding, transforming his entire face. He carefully slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, of course, and kissed me deeply, pouring everything he felt into that single moment of connection. "I love you so much," he whispered against my lips. "I love you too, more than I ever thought possible." Ice cream truck outside. Rico's excited shout interrupted our moment. We laughed together, the moment perfect despite, or maybe because of, the interruption. This was real life, messy and beautiful and full of unexpected joy. Outside in the golden afternoon sunshine, enjoying ice cream with Rico happily positioned between us on a bench, I looked at Jalen and felt overwhelming gratitude wash over me. Our story had started in complete chaos, confusion and fear, but it was finding its way to something genuinely beautiful. Later that evening, after Rico had thoroughly exhausted himself exploring every single corner of the new apartment and finally fallen asleep in his new dinosaur bed, Jalen and I sat together on the balcony overlooking the city lights twinkling below us. "I never genuinely thought I'd have this," I admitted quietly, watching the urban landscape. "A real home that feels safe. A real family built on love." "You deserve it all," Jalen said firmly, taking my hand, the one wearing his ring, and interlacing our fingers. "You deserve absolutely everything good." "So do you. You deserve to have been here from the very beginning with Rico, watching him grow." "We can't change the past, no matter how much we might want to," he said philosophically, squeezing my hand. "But we can build an absolutely amazing future together. And honestly, Devin, I wouldn't change how we got here. Every struggle, every moment of fear, every instance of uncertainty, it all led us to this exact moment. To us being truly ready for each other." "When did you become so wise about life?" I teased gently. "Since I fell in love with someone who made me desperately want to be better than I was." He kissed my temple tenderly. "You've changed my entire world in the best possible way." "You've changed mine too, completely transformed it." We sat in comfortable, companionable silence for a while, watching the city below, both of us thinking about how far we'd come, and how much further we wanted to go together. "Devin," Jalen said eventually, his tone shifting to something more serious and weighted, "I want to make this official soon. The bond, I mean. Not immediately, whenever you're truly, completely ready. But I want you to know with absolute certainty that's where I see us heading. Permanent. Legal. Bonded mates for life." My pulse quickened noticeably. "That's an enormous step. Life-changing. The biggest step possible," he agreed readily. "Which is exactly why I'm not rushing you at all. But I need you to understand my intentions clearly. This isn't temporary for me. This isn't taffel or convenient. I want forever with you, Enrico. I turned to face him fully in the dim light. Studying his expression carefully, there was no doubt visible there. No hesitation whatsoever. Just complete, unwavering certainty about our future. Ask me again in 1 month, I said softly but firmly. After we've actually lived together day to day, after you've seen me at my absolute worst, dealing with Rico's inevitable tantrums and my messy habits and everything that's not perfect or romantic. I've already seen you at your worst, Jalen reminded me with a gentle, knowing smile. I saw you terrified and defensive, trying desperately to protect your son from someone you thought might hurt you both. I saw you completely vulnerable during your heat, and I loved you through absolutely all of it. Still, 1 more month of normal life together. Let me be completely certain without any doubt. Take all the time you need, he promised sincerely, pulling me close. I'll be right here waiting patiently. As we headed inside to sleep in our new home, our actual shared home for the first time, I felt a profound sense of rightness I'd never experienced before in my entire life. This was what genuine belonging felt like. This was home. 1 month turned into 6 weeks, but finally, after countless conversations and careful consideration, I was completely ready. The bonding ceremony was deliberately intimate. Just Vincent the lawyer, Dr. Nora as medical witness, Blair who'd become like family to us, Marcus my photography mentor and friend, and a handful of close friends who'd supported us. Rico stood proudly beside us, dressed in his absolute best outfit, not fully understanding the legal and biological implications but definitely sensing the profound importance. We'd chosen to hold the ceremony in our apartment, in the home we'd built together with love and patience. It felt absolutely right. This is a significant, legally binding commitment, Vincent began formally, his professional voice filling our living room. Bonding is permanent and irreversible under law. Do you both enter into this freely and without coercion? Yes, Jalen and I said simultaneously, our voices strong. The ceremony itself was beautiful in its elegant simplicity. We exchanged verbal commitments, speaking vows we'd written ourselves over many late-night conversations. Devin, Jalen began, his voice steady but unmistakably emotional. You walked into my life completely unexpectedly, carrying the greatest gift I could have possibly received. You taught me that real family isn't about perfect circumstances or ideal timing. It's about actively choosing each other every single day. I promise to honor that choice for the rest of my life. My turn came. I took a shaky breath, steadying myself. Jalen, you could have been justifiably angry when you discovered Rico. Instead, you were understanding and patient. You could have demanded your parental rights immediately. Instead, you earned them through consistent action. You showed me that trust isn't simply given. It's carefully built, moment by moment. I'm profoundly honored to build our future together. Then came the marking, the physical seal of our permanent bond. Jalen cupped my face tenderly with both hands. Are you absolutely certain about this? I've never been more certain of anything in my entire life. He leaned in slowly, his lips finding that sensitive spot on my neck. The bite was sharp initially, then flooding warmth spread through my entire body, then an overwhelming sense of connection unlike anything I'd experienced. I could suddenly feel his emotions as clearly as my own. His deep love, his fierce protectiveness, his absolute devotion. When it was my turn to mark him, completing the bond, my hands trembled slightly with the weight of what this meant. But as my teeth broke his skin in the traditional place, I felt the bond snap completely into place like a lock finding its key. Permanent. Unbreakable. Perfect. Bonded mates, Vincent declared officially, smiling genuinely. Congratulations to you both. Rico cheered loudly and enthusiastically, not fully understanding the biological implications but definitely feeding off our obvious joy. The celebration afterward was simple but absolutely perfect. Homemade cake, genuine laughter, friends sincerely congratulating us and toasting our future. But the best moment came much later, after everyone had left and quiet had settled over our home. Jalen and I stood together in Rico's doorway, watching our son sleep peacefully in his dinosaur-themed bed, his small chest rising and falling steadily. We actually did it, I whispered in awe. We're officially a family now, legally and biologically. We were always a family, Jalen corrected softly, wrapping his arm around my waist. Now it's just official in every possible way. In our bedroom, our shared bedroom in our shared home, we lay together in the darkness, the bond humming between us like a living, breathing thing. I can feel you, I marveled, still adjusting to the sensation. Your emotions, your presence. It's absolutely incredible. I can feel you too. Your contentment, your happiness, your love. It's everything I wanted and more. We were quiet for a long moment, just experiencing this new, profound connection that would last our entire lives. Thank you, Jalen finally said, his voice rough with emotion, for giving me a chance when you had every reason not to, for trusting me with Rico, for letting me love you both completely. Thank you for being patient when I was difficult, for proving yourself consistently, for being exactly who we needed, even when we didn't know we needed you. 3 years ago, one completely unexpected night had changed everything. It had been genuinely terrifying, overwhelming, completely unplanned and chaotic. But that single night had given me Rico, my precious, wonderful son who made every day brighter. And eventually, through the most unlikely circumstances, it had brought me Jalen, my mate, my partner, my home. Our beginning had been unconventional and messy. Our journey had been complicated and sometimes painful, but our ending, or rather our new beginning as bonded mates, was exactly perfectly right. As I drifted off to sleep in Jalen's arms, feeling our bond settle into something warm and permanent and unshakable, I realized something profoundly important. Sometimes the very best things in life are the ones you never penned for or expected. Sometimes beautiful chaos leads to exactly where you're meant to be. And sometimes, the family you deliberately choose and build is even more beautiful than any family you could have possibly imagined. Jalen Wolf, my alpha, my bonded mate, my everything. Rico Santos Wolf, our precious son, the unexpected bridge between our past and future. And me, Devin Santos Wolf, finally completely perfectly home, forever and always.